you have to respect yourself enough to know that you have these boundaries and you're not going to be in the space if it's not for you at the right time. Hi you guys, welcome back. Thank you for checking my channel out. We're going to get straight into it. Today we're talking about self-respect and why it's required to live that soft, feminine, loving, passionate life that we desire and that we also deserve. I'm also getting ready to go hang out with some girlfriends. I'll be getting ready as I talk to you guys. Let's get started. We're gonna hop straight into it. Like I said, I've been sharing my journey over the past few months on YouTube about having a peaceful, soft, passionate, loving life, understanding my worth and all of that. And last week we talked about self-forgiveness, which is very important. But today I want to talk about self-respect and why it's needed and how to get self-respect, but also what I realized I had to work on in order to get that self-respect. We're also going to talk about how lacking self-respect for ourselves can also push us away from that soft, loving, passionate life that we want, and we deserve to have that life. I'll start with asking a question. So do we disrespect the things that we love? I didn't think so. Living that life means having self-love for yourself, loving yourself, and being in love with yourself. And I realized that, unfortunately, because I lacked self-love, I lacked self-respect for myself. And that plays a big part, not just emotionally, but also mentally. In the long run, I mishandled myself in the past. And that's not just with relationships, but it was with my goals and seasons that God may have called me to perform in, to be disciplined in, and even friendships. But I mishandled myself. And like we talked about in my last video, a part of this journey is having self-forgiveness. So that's all said and done. I'm encouraging you to forgive yourself from the things in your past. Now it's time to focus on self-respect, because this is all a journey and we're not perfect. It's all a part of the process, and we're still going to love ourselves regardless of the mistakes and regardless of the seasons where we do lack self-respect. And it's okay. It's a journey. So I'm going to talk about why we should step back and why we should make sure that we're constantly giving ourselves the respect that we do deserve and taking ourselves out of situations where we are disrespecting ourselves. So let's get into it. Okay, so one, it's disrespectful for us to attach to anything and everything else that's not the pursuit, that doesn't involve our pursuit towards understanding our self-worth. And unfortunately, we've all been there, and I know I'm like this. It's disrespectful to be attached to everything else but yourself, but your growth and your self-worth, and understanding that. And attaching to something else means that you believe that this other thing in your life can cause you happiness and can make you happy versus yourself, and not understanding that you yourself, understanding your worth, that you have the power to do that yourself, and also we're responsible for our happiness. But attaching to something else is actually very disrespectful to yourself, because you're kind of devaluing yourself and giving yourself less credit, and not understanding that you can give yourself that same amount of happiness, and you don't need outside factors to give you that happiness and to give you that fulfillment. And that's important. That's very big, because you lose value mentally. And it's disrespectful to ourselves to think that we can't do that for ourselves, that we don't have the power to give ourselves happiness, to keep ourselves in that place of just love and peace. And if you truly understood your worth and understood your value, you wouldn't attach to anything, because you understand what you give power to can control your emotions and the way that you look at yourself. And so when you give something else that power, you're losing respect for yourself. You're losing all of your power and giving it, when that power is for you and you alone, is yours and yours alone. And I realized that I somewhat struggled with that. Struggle with that, because I can have an attachment personality. I don't know all of the attachment types. There's lots of videos on YouTube about that. But I realized that my mind was on everything else but myself. And it's very harmful. And I remember I talked about it in my last video, but I always felt like I was in a place of sadness or depression, or like I have to reach something. And that's because I was attaching to certain relationships and certain approval from certain people and certain outcomes from certain situations. And in all honesty, none of those things can give me the happiness versus the happiness I can give myself when I understand my value, when I understand how much God loves me and what I'm meant to be doing in this world. We spend less time pouring into ourselves and more time pouring into things that honestly don't deserve us or doesn't deserve that amount of time from us or that amount of energy from us. And that's what really sucks, to be honest, because it's disrespectful, because you could be pouring into yourself more. You could be adding value to yourself more, but you can't see that because in your mind, you have to pour into this other substance. You have to attach to this other substance to give you that happiness. And that's so disrespectful. And once I realized that I had an attachment personality, an attachment type of love. I realized like I had to step back and I had to really, really focus on understanding who I am and understanding my worth and pour into myself. And I talked about this in one of my shorts, and I'll talk about this in another video. Everything comes and go. So respecting yourself is loving yourself enough to understand that nothing lasts forever. So you can't hold on to anything that doesn't last forever. The only thing that lasts forever is what God says about you and your worth and your value. I had to learn how to hold everything with a loose hand and not to attach to anything. I had to learn how to detach. I had to learn how to let go and stop obsessing over certain outcomes, because the thought of those outcomes have so much power over me, and it was taking away from me. It was draining me so much that I was losing power. And that's disrespectful. When you have so much you need to do on this earth, so much purpose, so much to give to other people, to those around you, it's disrespectful to give other things that energy and that power versus keeping that power for yourself. That happiness, that joy, the pursuit of your self-worth, that's respecting yourself, obtaining that and understanding that. So I had to, one, let go of my attachment style personality, whatever it's called, and learn how to detach from situations. And that's respecting yourself, learning how to detach from the outcome. And unfortunately, most of the time that also means in relationships, detaching from certain people and understanding that people come and go, and that's okay. Because if you allowed your personality, if you allowed your worth to be valued off of that, your worth will come and go just with those people. Your idea of your worth, your happiness will come and go if you attach that to those people. And we don't want to do that. We're not here for that. That's disrespectful to give your power, your happiness, your purpose, the ability to come and go just like everything else in your life. No. And so once you realize that you're no longer like you're attaching to those things and it's taken away from you rather than giving, you begin to want to respect yourself more and want to hold on to that happiness, to hold on to that love and that peace and that power that you have. Because we are powerful and our minds are very powerful. So too, this is a very big one for me because this also connects to attachment and detachment. But having self-respect means taking yourself out of situations where you don't belong. And again, that's with everything around you, everything in your life, your career, your relationships, your goals, your ambitions, but even your friendships, but even those relationships. And it's walking away from those spaces and understanding when it's time to go. It's very disrespectful to yourself to stay in situations where you no longer belong, where it's no longer pouring into you. And unfortunately, that's easier said than done. But think of it like this. It's like standing too close to fire. Like standing too close to something that may feel so good, but the longer you stand next to it, the more and more harmful it becomes towards you. That's what standing in those spaces can do to you. The longer you stay in spaces that you don't belong in, where their seasons have outrun its course, you start to kind of question your value. You know, again, talking about giving your purpose and your value to something that comes and go. When something that was meant to leave out of your life and that's meant for you to detach from, but you're constantly attaching to it, you're constantly keeping yourself in that space or with that person, in that space with that person, your value, your thought of your value, it kind of fluctuates. And, you know, it's like a roller coaster. But I realized that I was doing that a lot. And I can talk personally on this. But I went through a lot of seasons where I questioned my worth. And I questioned how beautiful I was. I questioned how powerful I was. I questioned my purpose. And I used to pour into myself so horribly because I used to say, oh, I'm not good enough for this person. I'm not on the same level as this person. I'm not what this person wants. I'm not beautiful enough for them. I'm not as popular enough for this person. And that is another disrespectful thing that you can do to yourself. Keeping yourself in a space that's not pouring into you. When we stand in that space for too long, we weaken ourselves. I can talk about that. When some of my past relationships, when I was dating certain guys, you know, it may started off beautifully and wonderfully, but not understanding seasons, not understanding that some things are just lessons, and wanting to hold on to it so much and not wanting to let it go. I continue to stay in that space with that person, continue to wanting to be in that space with that person. And guess what? I started damaging myself mentally and emotionally because in my mind, I wasn't good enough for that person. I wasn't good enough for anybody. I lied to myself. I told myself lies, and it brought me through. It brought me through some challenging seasons, and I don't regret anything. And I'm not telling you to regret those seasons. They're all lessons, and we learn from them. But now that you went through them, you should know now that when you're in something that no longer pours into you and it's time for it to go, you have to let it go. Because when you hold on to it, it's like trying to hold on to fire, and you're just hurting yourself in the long run. And that's extremely disrespectful and harmful to yourself. So that's why when God is calling you to walk away from something or telling you to detach from something other than His word or your purpose, that's why you have to. Because if you hold on to it too long, you start to lose your image of what your self-worth is and your image of how beautiful you are and how powerful and amazing you are. You start to take on a reflection of that space that you're in, and you kind of devalue yourself. And that is extremely disrespectful. Like, why would we want to do that? We don't want to do that. And it's okay if you have. We're going to forgive ourselves and move on. We only have to focus on now. And like I said, this is everything that I'm going through at the moment. And so I'm currently working on this myself. But understanding that if I'm not appreciated in a certain space, I don't have to be there. I don't want to be there because it's not giving me that peaceful life. And it actually causes us to be more, I hate this terminology, but more masculine and less feminine. It causes us to be more on guard and more aggressive and, more combative and defensive, versus when you're understanding that, your happiness is within you, not with that thing that's coming and going, with anything. Your happiness is with you. So, you don't have to compete for your worth and your value. You want to respect yourself. So those were my two biggest points. It's basically detaching from things and no longer being in spaces that don't deserve you. How can we gain respect for ourselves? And, what are the things that I had to do in order to have more respect for myself? And that all includes self-love, self-forgiveness, but like we keep talking about in this video, setting up boundaries for ourselves. And that's easier said than done. But we gotta set boundaries. And we have to understand that when certain things are not pouring into us, certain things are not pouring into our worth and the value of what our worth is and what God is saying about us, peace. It's time to go. It's time for us to leave and to walk away. But you set boundaries, and you set boundaries to protect yourself, to protect your happiness, and to protect your peace. And so something that I have to do is I need to sit down and write down what my boundaries are towards people, towards my aspirations and goals, and even my job and career, and the things that's surrounding me in my life. What are my boundaries? How far am I willing to go, and what will I not accept? How do I respect myself? Because as I always mention in my videos, our self-love, our respect for ourselves, it's easy to compare it to our significant others. If we're, who are we loving in our life? And we've all been in relationships, or, if you think about a relationship, when you love that person, or when you respect them, you respect their boundaries, right? When you love them, you respect their boundaries. So when we love ourselves, we respect our boundaries, and we have to stay true to those boundaries. It's no one else's job to hold us accountable for our boundaries, but you have to. You have to protect your happiness and your peace, and you have to respect yourself enough to have those boundaries. So that also called me to start cutting people off respectfully. And I'm a big advocate. Do it peacefully. You don't have to create these long paragraphs, and sometimes you don't need closure either. You have to start cutting off the certain things, people, relationships, and even other outside factors in your life, and start cutting them off when they're no longer adding value. You need to learn how to detach and to peacefully cut it off, respectfully cut it off. So this also required me to start pouring into myself also. For me, that's understanding God's word, understanding his definition of what I should be, understanding what type of woman I should be, and how powerful I am. There was a year where I set my boundaries, not just with other people, but with myself, and I started cutting off certain distractions in my life, and I started waking up at 6 in the morning, and every day before work, I started going to the coffee shop, and I spent that hour reading the word, reading the scripture. I was selfish with my time every morning. That was my boundary. That was my time to myself and with God. And I started reading the word, and I started reading his definition of what I should be, the type of disciple I should be, the type of woman I should be, the type of child I should be, the type of person I should be. And every day I was pouring into myself before I gave myself to other people and other things. And that kind of created blinders on me, because it reminded me every day, this is my footsteps. This is the direction I need to go. This is the space that I need to be in. And I remember that I was going through a hard time. I was going through a hard time that year, kind of like a mini breakup. And I needed to pour into myself faithfully, like passionately. I needed that because I kept myself in a space that was no longer pouring into me, and I lost my value. But when I gave up that space, which took some time, when I gave up that space and I started focusing more on pouring into myself, reading the word, working out as well every day, and staying on my schedule, I started seeing my value more. I started having this happiness that nobody can take, and I still have it, and I still have my ups and downs, but I found I was selfish with my time. I started cutting off those distractions, and I became happier. I started respecting myself more, and I didn't want to lose my love for myself. And so whatever it is that you have to do, whatever it is that you need to be selfish with, whatever boundaries you need to create, and that's not just with people and time, that's not just with people and relationships, but it's also with time. create those boundaries and use that time like for yourself. You can say, okay, I'm gonna take these 30 minutes before I start my day to write affirmations for myself. Nobody get that time but me. Nothing else can pour into me but this time to myself. And that way you're uplifting yourself and you're respecting yourself. You're giving yourself all of these beautiful affirmations towards yourself before you start the day. Even when it comes to dating, there's certain things that you may have to cut off. Certain ways that people may approach you. And having respect for yourself is understanding when you no longer need to be in a space with a certain person because they're disrespecting those boundaries or they don't understand those boundaries. And that's okay, you know. And a reason why, this is just a little nugget, but a reason why you want to take yourself out of that space respectfully, I'm a firm believer that everything comes and go. So if you're too busy holding on to things that's meant to leave out of your life at a certain season, you can't damage that bridge. You can't damage that connection, whatever that thing is. And I believe that some things do come back. And I'm not talking about just relationships, but anything. And, you know, down the line, sometimes blessings come back to you, the same person or the same thing, the goal or the outcome. Sometimes it can come back to you, but when the timing is right. And if you're holding on to it when the timing's wrong, you can't damage it. And that's disrespectful. Like, I want my goals. Like, I want my outcomes that God's promising me. I want my blessings or whatnot. I don't want to disrespect it. I don't want to lose it because I'm being disrespectful to myself. So let it go. Don't hold on to it. Breathe. It's going to be okay. Everything comes and goes. But you have to respect yourself enough to know that you have these boundaries and you're not going to be in the space if it's not for you at the right time. So that leads me to a very important realization, and then I'll get dressed for you guys because this all ties into everything. You have to surround yourself with the people that love you. You have to keep yourself in the places that you belong in. So you have to take yourself out of the places that's no longer for you at that time, and you have to be in the right place that's for you. And I'm talking about relationships and friendships and careers and opportunities. I find that I'm my most defensive and aggressive when I'm in places I no longer belong. But now I'm in a place where I'm surrounded by friends and people that love me and accept me for who I am and accept the journey and the season that I'm in. And so now I've always been a soft person, but I'm very soft and I'm confident in my softness. I'm confident in who I am and the way I am and the way I live my life because I'm surrounded by those people who accept me. And I feel loved. And that's the type of space we want. And that's respect. They respect me, I respect them, I respect myself enough to be in that place of love versus a place that's not for me at the right time. And that's how I'm able to just have this love and to pour into other people and to be peaceful and happy. And yes, I have my ups and downs, but guess what? I got my friends and my family and certain things in my life that's pouring into me that reminds me of my worth. So saying that, make sure you take yourself out of relationships and certain situations that's not pouring into you and find the things that are pouring into you. And with that, I'm about to put on my outfit because I'm running late as always. I'm about to put on my outfit, show you guys my outfit. I'm actually about to hang out with these group of girls who pour into me and who accept me for me. I'm loved. I'm loved in that space. So I'm actually excited. I'll do my lashes and then put on the outfit, show y'all, you know, the breakdown of where I got my items from. But yeah. Okay, so stay tuned.
What's funny about that?
Okay, you guys. So, I'm back, and this is the outfit. I'm feeling like very feminine, but also a little urban, a little bit, a little more confident. I love this shirt. But yes, so I'm about to hang out with some girlfriends, and I'll try to take you guys with us. We're just going out for some drinks and have some good girl time and conversation and talk and stuff like that. It's the start of the new year, so a lot to catch up on. But I wanted to make sure that I catch up with you guys and tell you guys, especially for the start of this new year, to make sure that you have self-respect for yourself. And like I said, it's making sure that we detach from things that no longer serves us. We detach from everything, even the things that do serve us, because nothing lasts forever. And unfortunately, if we put our worth and value and purpose into those things will come and go as well. And we don't want to do that. We want to respect ourselves, and also learning how to cut certain things off and set certain boundaries, and how to intentionally place ourselves into situations where we are loved, into relationships and opportunities and all those things. And so it's very big, because I talk about living a soft, healthy, loving, passionate life. In order to do that, just how we love those relationships, we want to love ourselves. And loving ourselves mean respecting ourselves. So yes, I hope you guys continue growing, and just know that you are worth it, you are valued. And if you are or were stuck in a place where you were losing your value, I want to remind you that you're none of those things. You're far greater, far powerful. You just have to obtain it and understand it. It's already yours, actually. You just have to understand that it's yours. It's your power, your happiness. It's your responsibility. So respect yourself. Set those boundaries, even with yourself. Tell yourself that you're no longer going to think that way. No longer attached to these different things. And you're going to continue or start pouring into yourself. You love yourself that much. And it's a journey. It's not meant to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. I'm making mistakes. But we're going to grow and learn from those mistakes. So, I definitely believe in you. I'm running late as always, so let's go. I'll show you guys the full outfit with the shoes and try to take you guys with me. But remember, you are loved and you are blessed. I don't like you leaving. Let's get secrets. Now you're just so creepy. Lying for no